There's someone whose entire inner world has become a gallery of you. While you're going about your life, working, laughing with friends, scrolling through your phone, completely unaware, they're somewhere else, physically present but mentally absent, because their mind has wandered back to you again. And it's not a casual thought. It's not a fleeting, "Oh, I wonder what they're doing." No. What's happening in their imagination is so vivid, so consuming, so achingly detailed that if you could see inside their mind for even 60 seconds, your breath would catch in your throat. I need you to understand something right from the start. This isn't about someone casually remembering you exist. This is about someone who has constructed entire realities around you in their imagination. Conversations you've never had. Scenarios that play out like film scenes. Versions of your life together that feel so real to them that when they snap back to reality, there's a moment of actual grief, a split second where they have to remember that what they just experienced was imagined. If you're here, if this title pulled you in, you already sense something. Maybe you've caught them looking at you with an expression you couldn't quite name. Maybe there's been a shift in their energy around you, something electric, something charged. Maybe you felt watched even when you couldn't see their eyes. Maybe your intuition has been whispering that something is happening beneath the surface that you haven't quite identified yet. You're right. Your instincts aren't misleading you. What I'm about to walk you through will explain everything: the intensity you've been feeling, the strange magnetic pull, the way certain interactions with this person seem to vibrate with unspoken things. Because while you've been living your visible life, they've been living an invisible one entirely centered around you. And the depth of what's been happening in their private mental world is staggering. Before we go deeper, I want to acknowledge something. This might feel overwhelming. When you realize how much space you occupy in someone else's consciousness, how detailed their mental images of you are, how frequently you appear in their thoughts uninvited, it can feel like too much. It can feel exposing. Some of you might feel flattered. Some might feel uncomfortable. Some might feel a rush of validation for something you've secretly hoped for. All of these reactions are valid. But here's why you need to know this, because what's happening in their imagination is creating energy that's affecting you whether you're consciously aware of it or not. You've been feeling something you couldn't name. This is it. This is the source. And once you understand what you're actually dealing with, you can decide how you want to respond to it. If you've felt an inexplicable intensity around someone lately, drop a heart emoji in the comments. Let me know you're here and this is resonating. What we're going to explore together isn't frivolous. This isn't about flattering your ego or playing games. This is about understanding a profound phenomenon that's happening right now, the way one person's inner world can become so saturated with another person that it creates an almost tangible force between them. And the specific person I'm describing? The things they're imagining about you would make you tremble not because they're inappropriate, but because they're so emotionally raw, so vulnerable, so hopeful and terrifying all at once. They're imagining your voice saying things you've never said. They're replaying conversations, rewriting them, extending them into territories you never explored. They're picturing your face in lighting you've never stood in, early morning sun through a window in a home you've never shared, late evening shadows in rooms where you've never been together. They're constructing futures, entire timelines, alternate versions of reality where things between you went differently or could still go differently. And here's what makes this so intense: they're not just imagining happy scenarios. They're imagining the hard conversations too. The vulnerable moments. The breakthroughs. The reconciliations. The intimacies, not just physical, but emotional, the kind where someone really sees you and you really see them back. They're rehearsing what they'd say if they had the courage. They're playing out what your reaction might be. They're living entire relationships with you in the privacy of their own mind. Before we continue, I want to thank those of you who've supported this channel through Super Thanks. Your generosity allows me to dedicate the time needed to create these deep explorations. If this content touches something in you, that feature is there. Stay with me. What I'm about to reveal about the specific nature of their thoughts, the particular scenarios they return to, the details they fixate on, the moments they replay endlessly, will help you understand not just that they're thinking of you, but what they're thinking and why it matters so much. Let me show you what their days actually look like, because this will help you grasp the scope of what we're dealing with. They'll be in the middle of something completely mundane, reviewing a document at work, standing in line at the grocery store, sitting in traffic, and you arrive in their mind like a sudden storm. One moment they're present, focused on the task at hand. The next moment, you're there. And once you arrive, it's nearly impossible for them to dismiss you. The thought of you unfolds into an entire experience. Picture this: they're at their desk, staring at their computer screen. They're supposed to be concentrating, but their mind has drifted. Suddenly they're imagining what it would be like if you walked into their office right now. They can see it so clearly, the way you'd look, the expression on your face, what you might say. Then the scenario expands. They're imagining the conversation. Your laugh. The way you'd gesture while talking. How close you'd stand. Whether you'd sit on the edge of their desk or stay standing. They can almost feel the shift in the room's energy that your presence would create. And this isn't a brief daydream. This is a full immersion that might last 5 minutes, 10 minutes, longer. They lose track of time. When they finally surface back to reality, they have to reorient themselves, remember what they were doing, shake off the disorientation of leaving the imagined world where you were right there. Or they're alone at home in the evening. Maybe they're cooking dinner, and a song comes on, a song that reminds them of you, or maybe just a song they imagine you'd like. And suddenly they're not alone anymore in their imagination. They're picturing you there in the kitchen with them. They're imagining cooking together, the easy intimacy of moving around each other in a shared space. They're scripting the conversation, playful teasing, comfortable silences, the kind of domestic ease that only comes with deep familiarity. They can almost hear your voice. Almost feel your presence. The kitchen suddenly feels empty in a way it didn't before the thought arrived. What you need to understand is that these aren't passive thoughts. They're active creations. They're building something in their mind, constructing it detail by detail. And the more they do this, the more real it becomes to them, the more they can inhabit these imagined realities. For those of you who are feeling seen right now, type "I feel this" in the comments. Here's where it gets even more intense. They're not just imagining pleasant scenarios. They're working through complex emotional terrain in their mind with you as the central figure. They're imagining difficult conversations they need to have with you. If there's unresolved tension between you, they're playing out the resolution in their head. They're rehearsing what they'd say, how they'd say it. They're anticipating your responses. They're preparing for various outcomes. In their imagination, they've had the brave conversation 50 times. They've apologized, explained, been vulnerable, risked rejection. They've heard you respond with understanding or with anger or with indifference. They've navigated all the possible paths. They're imagining comforting you when you're hurting, even if they don't know what you're currently going through. In their mind, they're the one you turn to. They're the one whose presence soothes you. They're imagining holding space for your pain, saying exactly the right thing, being exactly what you need. This fantasy isn't about them being a hero, it's about them being trusted by you, needed by you, chosen by you. They're imagining moments of breakthrough between you, times when the walls come down, when the truth gets spoken, when the thing that's been humming beneath the surface finally breaks through into the open. They've played out the moment when they tell you how they really feel about you. They've imagined your face when they say it. They've prepared for your rejection so many times they've become almost numb to it in their imagination, but they've also allowed themselves to imagine your acceptance, and that scenario makes their heart race even in fantasy. Do you see what I'm showing you? This person's inner life has become a theater, and you're the star of every production. Every play. Every act. Every scene. You're there when they're falling asleep. You're there when they first wake up. You're there in the shower, in the car, during lunch breaks, during quiet evenings, during restless nights when sleep won't come. And here's what's crucial: the frequency is increasing. The thoughts are becoming more elaborate, more detailed, more emotionally charged. They're not just thinking about you more often, they're going deeper each time. The scenarios are becoming more intimate, more vulnerable, more revealing of what they actually want. They imagine your hands, the way you move, your expressions when you're concentrating, when you're amused, when you're moved by something. They've memorized things about you that you don't even know are memorable. The way you tilt your head when you're listening. The specific quality of your smile when something genuinely delights you versus when you're just being polite. The sound of your breath. The rhythm of your speech. In their imagination, they've traced these details 1,000 times. They've built a version of you that's so detailed, so nuanced, that it's almost become a separate entity, a mental companion they carry with them everywhere. This next part is important, so don't skip ahead. What they're imagining isn't one-dimensional. It's not just romantic or just physical or just emotional. It's all of it, woven together. They're imagining intellectual connection, conversations where you challenge each other, where you both grow from the exchange, where understanding deepens. They're imagining spiritual resonance, moments where you see into each other's souls, where words aren't necessary, where presence is enough. They're imagining partnership, teamwork, the way you'd navigate life together. They've mentally walked through scenarios where you face challenges as a unit. They've imagined being sick and you taking care of them. They've imagined you being sick and them taking care of you. They've imagined celebrating victories together, processing disappointments together, making decisions together. They've imagined the ordinary and the extraordinary. Coffee in the morning. Road trips. Meeting each other's families. Inside jokes that develop over time. The way your dynamic would evolve, deepen, mature. They've imagined growing old with you, and they've imagined next Tuesday with you, and both feel equally important in their mind. The intensity of this, the sheer volume of mental and emotional energy they're directing toward you in their private inner world, is creating something. It's generating a field, an atmosphere, an energetic signature. And you, whether you realize it or not, are picking up on it. Now let me take you into the specific territories of their imagination, because understanding what they're actually focusing on will reveal why this feels so overwhelming, so charged, so significant. There's a particular phenomenon happening where they're taking real moments you've shared and reconstructing them. Every conversation you've ever had, they've replayed it. But not just replayed, they've examined it from every angle. They've analyzed your tone, your word choices, your body language. They've looked for hidden meanings, unspoken invitations, subtle signals. That time you laughed at something they said? They've relived that moment dozens of times, trying to decode whether it was just polite laughter or genuine delight. That time your eyes met and held for a beat longer than necessary? They've frozen that moment in their mind and studied it like a painting in a museum, looking for what it meant, what it revealed, what it promised or didn't promise. But more than just analyzing, they're revising. In their imagination, they're replaying these moments with different outcomes. That conversation where they held back from saying something vulnerable? In their mind, they've replayed it where they were brave, where they spoke their truth, where they took the risk. They've imagined how you might have responded. They've explored alternate timelines that branch off from single moments. And it's not just major interactions. It's the tiny ones too. The brief encounters. The passing exchanges. Every single point of contact between you has become material for their imagination to work with, expand upon, reimagine. Then there's the forward-looking territory, and this is where things get truly intense. They're not just imagining a vague future together. They're constructing specific futures with architectural precision. They're imagining what your relationship would look like 3 months from now if things progressed. 6 months. A year. 5 years. They've built timelines. They've imagined the progression, how you'd move from where you are now to deeper territory. How trust would build. How vulnerability would increase. How walls would come down. How you'd eventually reach a place of complete openness with each other. They're imagining specific events. Holidays together. Your birthday. Their birthday. Celebrations and milestones. They're placing you into their future in concrete ways. They're imagining introducing you to people in their life and how those introductions would go. They're imagining what their friends would think of you, what their family would think of you. They're imagining what your people would think of them. They're imagining the logistical realities too. If you don't live in the same place, they've imagined closing that distance. They've researched it in their mind, how it could work, what it would take, what sacrifices might be necessary. If you're in the same place, they've imagined what it would look like to occupy shared space regularly. They've mentally rearranged their life to make room for you. And here's what makes this so powerful: they're imagining not just the beautiful moments but the real ones. The conflicts you'd have to navigate. The differences you'd need to reconcile. The growth you'd both have to do. They're not lost in pure fantasy, they're engaging with realistic imagination. They're preparing themselves mentally for an actual relationship with all its complexity. They've imagined the first time something goes wrong between you and how you'd work through it. They've imagined discovering something about you that challenges them and choosing to love you anyway. They've imagined you discovering something about them that disappoints you and hoping you choose to stay. They're doing the mental and emotional work of relationship building before the relationship even exists in reality. Now we enter the territory that truly makes this trembling-inducing. The intimacy they're imagining isn't just one form. It's multi-layered, and each layer has been explored in their mind with stunning depth. Physical intimacy, yes, but not in a crude or objectifying way. They're imagining tenderness. They're imagining the first time they touch your face with intention. They're imagining what your skin feels like, what you smell like up close, what the weight of your body would feel like against theirs. They're imagining kisses, first kisses, everyday kisses, passionate kisses, gentle kisses, goodbye kisses, welcome home kisses. They've imagined the full spectrum. They're imagining the vulnerability of physical intimacy, not just the act but the emotional exposure that comes with it. The nervousness. The desire to please you. The fear of not being enough. The hope of being exactly what you want. They've imagined your pleasure. They've imagined learning your body, what you respond to, what makes you sigh or gasp or melt. They've imagined the generosity of loving someone physically and the surrender of being loved physically in return. But beyond physical intimacy, they're imagining emotional nakedness. They're imagining telling you things they've never told anyone. They're imagining the relief of being fully known and still accepted. They're imagining crying in front of you and not feeling ashamed. They're imagining you crying in front of them and being honored that you'd trust them with your tears. They're imagining the kind of emotional intimacy where you can sit in silence together and it feels like communication, where a glance conveys everything, where you develop a private language of looks and touches and unspoken understandings. They're imagining soul-level intimacy too, those moments where you transcend the ordinary and touch something sacred together. Where you're both vulnerable and strong at the same time. Where you see each other's wounds and each other's glory. Where acceptance is so complete it feels like grace. The obstacle processing zone. Here's something you might not expect: they're also spending significant time in their imagination working through obstacles. Whatever stands between you and them, whether it's circumstance, timing, other relationships, fear, distance, misunderstanding, they're mentally problem-solving it. If you're involved with someone else, they've imagined what would happen if that ended. They've imagined being patient while you heal. They've imagined earning your trust. They've imagined proving themselves worthy of consideration. They've also imagined the pain of you choosing to stay where you are and what they'd have to do to accept that and move on. If the obstacle is timing, they've imagined different scenarios of timing aligning. They've imagined what would need to shift for this to be the right time. They've imagined waiting. They've imagined not waiting. They've imagined the risk of moving too soon and the regret of moving too late. If the obstacle is fear, theirs or yours or both, they've imagined courage. They've rehearsed brave conversations. They've prepared themselves mentally for rejection because they're trying to build up the strength to actually take the risk in reality. If the obstacle is misunderstanding, they've imagined clearing it up. They've scripted explanations. They've anticipated your questions and prepared their answers. They've imagined the moment when confusion gives way to clarity between you. They're not just passively wishing obstacles away. In their imagination, they're actively engaged with the challenges, working through them, strategizing, preparing, building their internal capacity to face whatever reality demands. Something profound is happening where they're beginning to imagine you as integrated into their core identity. They're not just imagining you in their life, they're imagining their life fundamentally altered by your presence in it. They're imagining who they become in relationship with you, the ways you challenge them to grow, the aspects of themselves you draw out, the healing that might happen in your presence, the ways they'd be better, not because you demand it, but because your presence would inspire it. They're imagining shared purpose, not just coexisting but collaborating on something meaningful, building something together, whether that's a family, a creative project, a shared mission, a home, a life that matters. They're imagining what you could create together that neither of you could create alone. They're imagining legacy, the life you'd live together, the impact you'd have together, the story you'd tell together. They're thinking beyond immediate gratification to long-term significance. And here's what makes this so intense. In imagining all of this, they're revealing what they actually value, what they actually want, what they're actually capable of. Their imagination is betraying their heart. Every scenario they construct, every detail they fixate on, every possibility they explore, it's all testimony to how deeply you matter to them, how much space you occupy, how thoroughly you've penetrated their consciousness. If you're beginning to understand the magnitude of what's happening, drop a single word below that describes how this makes you feel. The trembling that the title promised isn't physical, it's the full-body realization of being so thoroughly imagined, so completely present in someone's inner world, so central to someone's mental and emotional landscape that you've essentially been living a parallel life in their consciousness that you knew nothing about. Until now. Here's the revelation that changes everything. What they're experiencing in their imagination isn't separate from reality. It's creating reality. Or more accurately, it's creating the conditions for a specific reality to emerge. Every time they imagine you, they're energetically reaching toward you. Every detailed scenario they construct, they're building a template. Every emotion they feel in these imaginings, they're generating a frequency. And all of this, the reaching, the building, the generating, is creating an energetic environment that you exist within whether you're aware of it or not. This is why you've been feeling something. This is why there's been an intensity you couldn't name. This is why their presence affects you differently than other people's. This is why even their absence has a quality to it, because they're projecting so much energy toward you that it creates a palpable field. Let me be very clear about what I'm saying. I'm not suggesting their thoughts magically control you or that you have no agency. What I'm describing is how focused attention and emotional energy create atmospheres, contexts, environments. When someone thinks about you this intensely, this frequently, with this much detail and feeling, they're essentially creating an energetic invitation. You feel pulled toward them not because you're being manipulated, but because there's a genuine force of attention and desire directed your way. You know how you can feel when someone's watching you even when you can't see them? You know how you can sense when someone's talking about you even though you weren't present for the conversation? You know how certain people seem to occupy space in your awareness even when they're not physically near you? This is that phenomenon amplified exponentially. Before I go further, if this channel has been a blessing to you and you're able to support it through super thanks, I'm deeply grateful. It's what makes these explorations possible. Now here's what's actually happening in the invisible realm between you and this person. The magnetism is mutual, even if you haven't named it. What they're feeling toward you, you're feeling some version of toward them. Maybe it manifests differently. Maybe you're not spending hours imagining detailed scenarios. But you're drawn. You're curious. You're affected. Something in you responds to something in them. The pull isn't one-directional, it's a circuit. Their intense focus on you activates something in you that then feeds back to them, which intensifies their focus, which activates you more. It's a loop that's been building. You've probably noticed that you think about them more than makes logical sense. That they appear in your mind at random moments. That you find yourself wondering what they're doing, what they're thinking, whether they ever think about you. Well, now you know, they do. Constantly. And what you've been feeling is the resonance of their constant focus. The visions are partially prophetic. Here's something that might sound mystical but is actually quite practical. When someone imagines something with this much detail, emotional investment, and frequency, they're not just fantasizing. They're downloading possibility. They're tuning into potential futures. They're accessing information about what could be. Not every detail they imagine will manifest exactly as they picture it. Life doesn't work that way. But the core essence of what they're seeing? There's often truth in it. When they imagine the quality of connection you could share, they're perceiving something real about the potential compatibility between you. When they imagine specific forms of intimacy or partnership, they're often accurately sensing what could unfold if the path forward were chosen. Their imagination isn't creating these possibilities out of nothing, it's perceiving them. It's like they're standing at a doorway, and what they're imagining is what exists on the other side of that door. The door hasn't been opened yet. The future hasn't been chosen yet. But what they're seeing isn't fabricated, it's potential reality waiting for activation. This is why their imaginings carry such weight, such intensity. On some level, they know, and you know, that what they're envisioning could actually happen. It's not delusional fantasy. It's preview. It's possibility. It's invitation. The intensity signals significance. The very fact that their imagination is this active, this detailed, this consuming tells you something crucial. This connection matters. People don't invest this much mental and emotional energy into casual curiosities. They don't construct elaborate inner worlds around people who are meant to be footnotes in their story. The intensity of their imagination reflects the significance of the connection itself, not just to them, but in the larger pattern of both your lives. There's a reason you came together. There's a reason you affect each other this way. There's a reason their mind has latched onto you with this degree of force. Something important exists between you, even if it hasn't fully manifested yet in the physical world. This doesn't necessarily mean you're meant to be romantic partners forever. Significance doesn't always mean longevity or a specific form. But it means this connection is meant to catalyze something, teach something, shift something, reveal something. It means this isn't random. It means pay attention. The privacy is actually protection. There's a reason all of this has been happening in their imagination rather than an explicit conversation with you. There's a reason you've been sensing things rather than hearing things. The privacy of their inner world has created a container for something to develop without premature exposure. If they had verbalized every thought, every feeling, every imagining from the beginning, it might have overwhelmed you. It might have scared you away. It might have forced decisions before you were ready. The fact that this has been cooking in their imagination gives you space to catch up energetically, to feel your own feelings, to come to your own realizations without pressure. But now the pressure is building. What's been private is seeking expression. What's been imagined is seeking manifestation. The inner world they've constructed around you is becoming too large to be contained. Something's going to shift. Something's going to break through. Something that's been underground is moving toward the surface. The trembling is recognition. The title promised you tremble, and now you understand why. It's not fear. It's not anxiety. It's the full body experience of recognizing yourself as the center of someone else's entire inner universe. It's realizing you've been profoundly affecting someone while going about your ordinary life. It's understanding that you've occupied sacred space in someone's consciousness, that you've been treasured, imagined, explored, desired, feared, hoped for, and clung to in the privacy of someone's heart and mind. The trembling is your system responding to being seen, being wanted, being imagined in such detail and with such intensity. Even if you never wanted this attention, even if you're not interested in pursuing anything with this person, there's something primal that responds to being so thoroughly held in someone's awareness. It touches something ancient in us, the deep human need to matter, to be seen, to occupy space in someone else's reality. And if you do want this, if you've been hoping for exactly this kind of intensity from exactly this person, then the trembling is relief. It's confirmation. It's the answer to the question you've been afraid to ask: do I matter to them the way they matter to me? Yes, you do. More than you realized. More than they've shown. More than you probably imagined. What this means for what happens next. The imaginings have reached a threshold. Something is about to shift from internal to external, from imagined to expressed, from potential to actual. You're standing at a turning point, whether you consciously recognize it or not. The energy that's been building in the invisible realm is seeking outlet in the visible realm. The things they've rehearsed in their mind are preparing to be spoken in reality. The scenarios they've constructed in private are seeking to manifest in shared space. The intensity you've been feeling is about to find explanation, expression, or escalation. This is why you're here. This is why this message found you now. Because you needed to understand what you're actually dealing with before the next phase unfolds. You needed to know that what you've been sensing is real, that the intensity has a source, that the connection is significant. So what do you do with this information? How do you navigate being the constant subject of someone's imagination? How do you respond to being wanted this intensely? Trust what you already know. First and most important, you've been feeling this. Your intuition has been picking up signals. Your body has been responding to the energy directed toward you. Don't dismiss what you know just because it hasn't been explicitly confirmed yet in words. If something in you has been whispering that this person thinks about you more than they let on, believes it. If you've sensed attraction, fascination, preoccupation, desire beneath the surface of your interactions, trust it. If you've felt watched, noticed, held in attention even in their absence, you're perceiving accurately. Your system knows things before your mind catches up. The feeling of being intensely imagined creates a signature, and you've been reading that signature even if you couldn't name it until now. Don't second-guess yourself. Don't talk yourself out of what you've been sensing. Reality is confirming your instincts. Decide what you want. This is the critical choice point. Now that you understand the depth of what's happening in their inner world, you get to decide what you want to do with that information. Do you want to explore what exists between you? Are you curious about whether the connection they're imagining could become real in shared space? Do you feel drawn toward them in ways you've been hesitant to admit? If so, you get to create openings for this to move from imagination into reality. You get to signal receptivity. You get to invite the conversation that needs to happen. Or maybe you're not interested. Maybe you're flattered but unavailable, emotionally, circumstantially, or by choice. Maybe you care about them but not in the way they're imagining. Maybe the intensity feels like too much. If that's true, you get to establish boundaries with kindness. You get to be honest. You get to protect your peace while honoring their feelings. Or maybe you're uncertain. Maybe you need time to feel into this, to examine your own feelings, to figure out what's real beneath the noise of your fear or confusion or ambivalence. That's okay too. You get to take the time you need. You get to move at your own pace. You get to figure out what you want before responding to what they want. The point is, their intensity doesn't obligate you. Their imaginings don't create debt. Their feelings, however deep, don't require you to reciprocate. You have full agency here. You get to choose your response based on what's true for you, not what you think you owe them. Create clarity between you. Whatever you decide, the next step is clarity. The unspoken needs to be spoken. The imagined needs to be tested against reality. The energy that's been circulating in the invisible realm needs to find expression in the visible realm. If you're interested in exploring this, create opportunities for honest conversation. Signal your openness. Ask direct questions. Share what you've been feeling. Create space for them to voice what they've been holding privately. Let the imagined begin to interface with the real. If you're not interested, communicate that clearly and kindly. Don't leave them in ambiguity. Don't string them along with mixed signals. Don't ghost them or avoid them or hope they'll figure it out on their own. Have the uncomfortable conversation. Tell them you're not available for what they're seeking. Give them the information they need to redirect their energy. If you're uncertain, say that. Tell them you need time. Ask for space to feel into things without pressure. Be honest that you're sorting through your own feelings and you need room to do that. Don't pretend you're sure when you're not. Don't fake indifference. Don't perform certainty you don't have. Authentic uncertainty is better than false clarity. Protect your energy. Being the subject of someone's intense imagination can be energetically draining if you're not careful. All that attention, all that desire, all that hope directed toward you, it can start to feel heavy if you don't establish healthy boundaries. You don't have to absorb their feelings. You don't have to carry their hope. You don't have to manage their emotional experience. Their inner world is theirs to navigate. You can care about them without taking responsibility for what they're going through. Set boundaries around your availability, physical, emotional, energetic. If their intensity is bleeding into your space in ways that don't feel good, create more distance. If their attention feels suffocating rather than flattering, communicate limits. If you need room to breathe without feeling constantly observed or imagined, claim that room. Protecting your energy isn't selfish or cruel. It's essential. You can't show up authentically in any connection if you're drowning in someone else's projections and fantasies. Honor the sacredness. Even if you're not interested in pursuing anything with this person, try to honor the sacredness of what's happened. Being imagined this thoroughly, being held in someone's consciousness this tenderly, being desired this genuinely, it's actually a profound gift, regardless of whether you want what they're offering. Someone has seen you. Someone has paid attention. Someone has constructed entire worlds with you at the center. That's not nothing. That's not casual. That took vulnerability on their part, the vulnerability of letting themselves feel this much, want this much, hope this much. You don't have to reciprocate to honor it. You don't have to return their feelings to treat them with dignity. You don't have to say yes to acknowledge that what they've offered, even if only in their imagination so far, has value. Being honored in someone's inner world is being given a form of love, even if it's unrequited, even if it can't go where they hope. Receive it graciously, even if you ultimately redirect it. Watch for your own imaginings. Here's something interesting that often happens. Once you become aware that someone is imagining you constantly, you start imagining them more intensely too. The knowledge that you occupy their mental space causes you to give them more mental space. The awareness of their desire activates something in you, curiosity, at minimum, and sometimes desire of your own that you'd been suppressing. Pay attention to what starts happening in your own imagination now that you have this information. Do you find yourself constructing scenarios? Do you start rehearsing conversations? Do you catch yourself wondering what it would be like? Do you begin playing with possibilities? Your imagination will tell you what your conscious mind might be reluctant to admit. If you start imagining them back, that's information. If scenarios with them start bringing up excitement or warmth or curiosity, that's data. If you find yourself drawn into your own elaborate fantasies about what could unfold between you, that's your system trying to tell you something. Let reality inform fantasy. If you do decide to explore what's between you, remember, their imagination has constructed something based on limited information. The real you is more complex than any imagined version. The real relationship will be messier and harder and more surprising than any fantasy. This doesn't mean the connection won't be beautiful or significant. It means reality always diverges from imagination in both challenging and delightful ways. Let the actual experience of being together inform and reshape whatever's been imagined. Be willing to release the fantasy in favor of what's actually true between you. And if they're willing to do the same, if they're willing to meet the real you instead of clinging to the imagined version, that's a very good sign. That's someone who can move from fantasy to reality with integrity. That's someone who wants the truth of you, not just their preferred version. Give it time and space. Whatever's going to unfold between you doesn't need to be rushed. The fact that they've been imagining you intensely doesn't mean you need to make immediate decisions. The fact that energy has been building doesn't mean it has to explode right now. Let things breathe. Let conversations unfold organically. Let the connection reveal itself in its own timing. Don't force it toward a conclusion just to relieve the tension. Some things need to simmer. Some things need to cook slowly. Some connections need time to find their true form before being locked into a specific shape. Give this room to become what it's meant to be without prematurely defining it. Type clarity below if you're ready for the truth between you and this person to be revealed. The application isn't about having perfect answers. It's about moving with awareness, choosing with intention, honoring both yourself and them in the process, and trusting that clarity will emerge as you walk forward one honest step at a time. So here you are, armed with understanding you didn't have before, aware of realities you only sensed, standing at the edge of something that's been forming in invisible spaces, now seeking to break through into the visible. This person who's been imagining you, they're still imagining you right now, even as you're learning about it. Right this moment, somewhere, they're thinking of you. Constructing scenarios. Replaying conversations. Rehearsing brave words. Picturing your face. Feeling the full weight of their desire and hope and fear all tangled together in their chest. And now you know. Now you understand what the intensity has been. Now you can name the force you've been feeling. The question is, what will you do with this knowing? Will you pretend you don't notice? Will you continue to interact as if nothing is happening beneath the surface, as if their inner world isn't saturated with you? That's an option, but it's becoming harder to maintain. The energy is too big now. The unspoken is pressing too hard against the boundaries of silence. Or will you create opening? Will you acknowledge what's been humming beneath your interactions? Will you give space for the imagined to interface with the real, for the private to become shared, for the intensity to find its expression? There's no wrong answer. There's only what's true for you. But understand this, something is already shifting. The moment you became conscious of the depth of their focus on you, something changed in the energetic dynamic between you. Awareness itself is a form of response. Knowledge itself creates shift. You can't unknow what you now know. You can't unfeel what you've been feeling. You can't return to the innocence of not understanding what the charge between you has been about. The veil has lifted. You see now what's been happening. And that seeing changes everything. If this message has touched your soul and you feel led to support this work through super thanks, I receive it with deep gratitude. For some of you, this revelation brings relief. You've been wondering if you were imagining the intensity, if you were reading too much into small moments, if your attraction or curiosity was one-sided. Now you know it wasn't. Now you understand that what you felt was real, was reciprocated on some level, was being matched in their private inner world even if it wasn't being expressed outwardly. For others, this brings overwhelm. The weight of being so thoroughly imagined might feel like too much. The responsibility of occupying so much space in someone else's consciousness might feel burdensome. That's okay. You're allowed to feel whatever you feel about this. For still others, this brings clarity. Pieces that didn't quite make sense now fit together. Behaviors that seemed confusing now have explanation. The puzzle completes itself. You understand now why they look at you the way they do, why their energy shifts when you're near, why certain interactions carry more weight than seems warranted by their surface content. What I want you to know, regardless of where you land, is this: you are not responsible for managing someone else's inner world. You are not obligated to reciprocate intensity just because it's directed at you. You are not required to want what they want or feel what they feel. But you are called to respond authentically. You are asked to honor the truth, both theirs and yours. You are invited to bring integrity to how you navigate what happens next. If the truth is you want to explore this connection, do it honestly. Don't play games. Don't manipulate. Don't test their devotion or leverage their vulnerability. Meet their courage with your own. Match their risk with yours. Enter the space between you with clean hands and an open heart. If the truth is you don't want this, say so clearly. Don't soften it so much that they miss the message. Don't leave them hoping when there's no hope to be had. Give them the gift of definitive information so they can begin redirecting their enormous emotional and mental energy towards something or someone who can receive it. If the truth is you need time, take it. But don't hide behind uncertainty forever. Don't use "I need time" as a way to avoid making a difficult decision. Give yourself a reasonable window to explore your feelings, then choose. Prolonged ambiguity serves no one. The trembling that this title promised, you feel it now, don't you? It's the trembling of standing at a threshold. It's the trembling of holding powerful information. It's the trembling of knowing that what you do next matters, that your choices create reality, that you're participating in something significant whether you proceed forward or choose to step back. This moment, right here, right now, with this knowing, is sacred. Don't rush past it. Don't dismiss its weight. Don't minimize what's actually happening. Something important is trying to emerge. Something real is seeking form. Something that's been growing in darkness is moving toward light. You are part of this unfolding. Your consciousness, your choices, your truth, they all matter enormously in what happens next. So take a breath. Feel into your own body, your own heart, your own knowing. Ask yourself what's actually true for you beneath the noise of fear and social conditioning and other people's expectations. What do you actually want? Not what you think you should want. Not what would be easier or safer or more convenient. What do you actually, genuinely, in the depths of your being, want? Let the answer come without censoring it. Let yourself know your own truth. And then, when you're ready, when you've sat with this information, when you've felt into your own desires and fears and uncertainties, when you've listened to your deepest wisdom, act from that truth. Whatever you choose, choose it consciously. Whatever you do, do it with awareness. Whatever unfolds, let it unfold with your full participation rather than your passive observation. Drop one final word below, whatever wants to come through, as a declaration or a prayer or a release. Let the community witness your truth. This person who's been imagining you. They're about to discover whether their inner world has been a preview or a fantasy, whether the connection they've been constructing in privacy can manifest in reality, whether you're willing to step into the space they've been holding for you. And you're about to discover something too, who you are in the face of being deeply wanted, thoroughly imagined, completely seen. You're about to learn what you're capable of, in courage or in kindness, in receptivity or in boundaries, in opening or in closure. The trembling is the beginning. What comes next is up to you. But whatever happens, you'll never forget this, the intensity of being held in someone's imagination so completely that you could feel it even before you understood it. That knowing will stay with you. That recognition will mark you. You've been seen. You've been imagined. You've been wanted. Now choose what you'll do with that truth.